Ciao and Khosh Omadid. Welcome to this Monday stream of Las Plumas de Timur. My name is Plumas and I'm gonna be your host for the afternoon. The evening, I never found my way around those words. How are you? It's so nice to see you here. And today we have a water stream. We have today, so excited. I've been dreaming of doing this live stream for quite a long time, and now finally we came around to do it. So hello No Soy Ros, hello Naim Jun, how are you? Oh, safe drivings, please. No Soy Ros, just drive safely. We want you to arrive wherever it is you're going. And shout out to all the people who came to the channel. Hello Nikla, hello. Shout out to all the people who came new to the channel. Welcome to Las Plumas de Timur. And thank you to all the people who subscribe to the channel. As always, you are the reason I'm here and I can continue doing stuff. Persian stuff, ancient Persian stuff. And of course, a big thank you to my patrons. They are the real deal. They're the people who make this possible. If you want to support this project on Patreon, make sure to check patreon.com/lasplumasdesimur, and from €2 there's so much you can help me with. And if you support me on Patreon, you will get the exclusive access the exclusive access to our Discord server, where we have like a lot of very nice conversation. You get also like early access to things. You get the right to vote if you want, and yeah, that's pretty much everyone I had to greet today. I am genuinely very excited. Oh, by the way, do you remember that I mentioned that I might have a Jean or a Patty here in my office? I found a Patty. She lives in the door. Like, they live in the door because they open and close the door at will. I just stood up, closed the door, and now it's open again. So I guess the Patty that lives here with me in my office likes the air coming and going. I don't need more proof. I just don't need more proof that there's a Patty in this house. Like, at least a Patty, and I want to think it's a Patty, because if it's a yin, if it's a Jin, oh boy, I am screwed. Hopefully it would not be a Jin. So yeah, how's everyone doing? This is actually, well, of course, here we have the tea, and this is very exciting because this is the first live stream that we have with a script in so long. Are you drinking tea with me? I am having a lovely Earl Grey tea, and this actually, I did not buy this. It was a present. Oh, actually, how can you hear me now? Because I'm aware of the echo, so I'm trying not to talk as high as I would normally do. And I have Lulu June. You actually can see Lulu June on screen right here. So how's the sound? Because if I scream, the Buimo echo. I mean, I do not scream. I speak in a high, like elevated voice tone. But yeah, you know what I mean. How is that? Should it bring Lulu closer to me? What do you reckon? I don't know. Also, I want to introduce another, let's say, element. Another thing that's for me, it's very good. All right, Angel, thank you for your input. Let's just introduce a new element, a new addition to this channel that's going to become a fair and loyal companion. You know how I normally have my water bottle over here with me because hydration is important, and I like it. However, I recently acquired this. It's my Venom cup, and I go everywhere with this. So get used to it. He's gonna be around like constantly in these live streams because I really like it. I love it. We went to the cinema. This was a cup that the cinema offered, and we went to the cinema exclusively. I mean, I know we didn't even see, like, we didn't watch Venom. I just wanted the Venom cup because I'm a very big Venom fan, which no, I haven't seen it yet. I just, like, yeah, now I have to drink. Yes, exactly. Every time you see the Venom cup, you need to drink too. So I get used to it. He's gonna be around helping me get hydrated, and it shines like it's fluorescent. It shines in the dark, which is very creepy if you don't know. So I really like it. So welcome everyone to this first scripted live stream. It's been a while, I know, but finally, we are getting here to talk about the great king of Anchan, Cyrus II, and the Genesis, the Neon Genesis Evangelion, the Neon Genesis Evangelion of the Achaemenid Empire. This was the most requested topic on Patreon. There were other things to vote, and I almost knew that those things were going to come up as the chosen ones. However, hello Christian, and no Spanish today, no Gallego, today's just English, and I was just sure that the other streams were going to come up as chosen. However, this was the topic that you, Bachar, wanted to hear the most. So here we have it. Today we shall talk about Cyrus the Great, Cyrus II, and I am very excited because I've always described myself as one of the biggest fans of Cyrus out there. His figure is as complex and as hidden in time. Like, it's like a very big mixture, a merging of legend, myth, reality, history, and it's just fascinating. I remember he was the first Achaemenid I knew about. Even before Xerxes and Darius, I knew of Cyrus. I'm gonna keep saying Xerxes all wrong, so sorry, I apologize. Let me rephrase that. Even before Darius and Xerxes, I came across Cyrus. I don't even remember why or how it happened, but I remember reading about him, possibly in an article on a National Geographic magazine or something, and I was fascinated. I did not know such a powerful figure existed in the history of Iran. I was very young. Like, when I say very young, I mean early teens, something like that. And he's always been in the back of my head. And I remember in a podcast I made with some friends, I defined Cyrus as my first historical crush. And I think it stands to this, like, that statement. To this day, it lives, that statement has stood its ground. So yeah, congratulations, Cyrus. You are still my big fat historical crush. So let's just go ahead and start it. Of course, I have brought so many images, and I am very happy because I really, really, really like showing you not just maps, because maps are important, but also just, images of him. So shall we start? Today, Bachar, we are talking about Cyrus, or in Persian, Kurosh. Expect a lot of Persian. I really like giving you the original names because, in case you don't know of this, we normally get to know the Achaemenids and the Persians through the Greek sources, which were, adapted. They modified the names to make them easier for them to pronounce. Kurosh was translated into Kyros and Kyros in Greek, and from that it derived to Cyrus or Thirom. Hello, Alexander! But his original name is Kurosh, and I really like it. I think it's very powerful and it sounds so beautiful. Cyrus is okay, but I like Kurosh a lot. Don't worry, I shall refer to him as Cyrus from this moment onwards, but at least I wanted to give you a taste, just a little hint of how his name sounded in Old Persian. So Cyrus II, or Cyrus the Great, is one of the historical figures of the most importance for the ancient history of Iran. He is considered to be the founder of the Achaemenid dynasty, but today we are going to discuss about that and try to elaborate a little bit if that was true or not, and how come we still think about Cyrus as the founder or the first king of the Achaemenid Empire. Time ago, an Irishman told me that I speak English like a Scottish, because in both cases what could be understand was very little. Oh, I'm pretty sure your English is great. So as I was saying, one of the topics I want to touch upon is this supposed connection with Achaemenids and hello Pichu, with Achaemenids and Cyrus, and there's so much to talk about. However, we can go on forever, so I've cherry-picked my favorite pieces to talk about. Cyrus was a Parshwas or a Parshumash, at the province, the southern province of Parsa and the southwest of Iran. And from this word, the Parsumash, the volume is a little bit low today. Naim told me it was okay. I don't know. How is the volume for the rest of you, Bacha? I can bring Lulu closer to my voice. Not to my voice, like to my mouth, to myself. I can bring Lulu closer. Perfect brewing time. Oh, I love when that happens. Maybe it was the echo. Perhaps. I don't know. Bacha, how is the volume for the rest of you? Hello, Tomias. It's okay. It's okay here. Okay here. So, but it means maybe just put up your volume, Christian. I don't know. So, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I want to show you where the province of Parsa was. And actually, for doing that, I need to show you. A map of the Median Empire. There you go, more or less, yeah. So here in this beautiful map, you can see a yellow patch that says Persia. That should not say Persia, that should say Parsa, but you know, again, Greeks meddling and the transmission of knowledge and all the names. However, it's not supposed to be Persia, it's supposed to be Parsa. So as I said, Cyrus was Parshuash or Parshumash in this southwestern province of Iran, and from this name, from Parsa, derived also the name of his empire, the Persian Empire, and the way we talk about the Persians. However, it is very important to acknowledge this is an exonym. We know an exonym. What is an exonym? An exonym is a name that foreigners use to address a land or a culture or a bunch of people. In this case, the Greeks were the ones saying Persians. They would call themselves the Parsas. And definitely they did not call themselves the Persians. They call themselves the Achaemenids, but we will discuss about that too, because as I was saying, the Achaemenid tag should be used cautiously. And today we're going to explore some of the most interesting aspects of this figure of Cyrus, and we're going to talk about his life, we're going to talk about his military campaigns, and about his cultural legacy. So let us go back for a minute to this first image that I showed you. Where are you, Cyrus, my dear? I have so many pictures that I need to... Oh, there we go. So, all right, let's just address the first thing. Google images. If you Google Cyrus the Great, most probably this one's going to come up. It's not ideal because this, we don't know if this was Cyrus for a fact. And what is this? If this is not Cyrus, who is this? So well, this is actually an illustration by Ernst Wallis of a relief found in Pasargada, a city we'll talk about later. So what's the problem about this? Well, we don't know if this is Cyrus because this relief was found underneath an inscription that says, I am Cyrus, the King of Kings, and Achaemenid. But Cyrus never commissioned that inscription. He never did. It was Darius, some decades after him. Why did Darius do that? We shall see. If you want, do you want a live stream about Darius? Please say yes, please say yes, please say yes. If you want a live stream about Darius, put a glass of tea on the chat because I need very little to convince me. So this image that we have here, the drawing actually is by Ernst Wallis, and it was made in 1875. But we call, like, Actually, Herodotus and the people who work with Cyrus more thoroughly, they are very cautious in calling this an image of Cyrus because they think it's some kind of a guardian. And how do we know? Well, if you know something about Mesopotamian iconography and Mesopotamian art, you would have recognized these four wings that are very characteristic of Mesopotamian deities. I'm talking about Marduk here. I'm talking about An and Lil and all these bunch of nice deities. So we believe it could be a guardian. We have no idea what is that he's wearing on his head, but we can see horns. Can you see the horns? The horns mark a deity, at least again in Mesopotamia, because there was this thing called the crown of horns, that it was a crown of the sky of the god An or Anu, and that's the thing. The fact that these appeared underneath a misinterpreted inscription led scholars of the time to believe that these were in fact this would be the only portrait of Cyrus that we preserve. However, this is not Cyrus, or at least we're not sure he is Cyrus, so please be very careful with oh my god, he said Anunnaki. Please be very careful with assigning names and just like stating that some images belong to certain figures, because we don't know. And that's the thing about Cyrus, we don't know much. Clearly it's a phoenix. Pichu! Don't! This is the thing about Cyrus that I find fascinating. We don't know much about him because he left very little behind him. We know about him through the eyes and through the hands and the writings of others. And if we are true to ourselves, Cyrus is still a very enigmatic figure because there's so much to unravel and untangle about him. And I think that's one of the reasons I like him so much. So, you know that you heard me say Cyrus II or Cyrus the Elder. So who is Cyrus the Younger and Cyrus the First? Well, this seal is the only representation we have of Kurush the First of Anchan. So who is this person? Who is Cyrus the First of Anchan? So he was the king of Anchan, which is the south of Iran, apparently from the 600 before Common Era to the 500 before Common Era. Apparently, we don't know much about this person. What we know is that he is the grandfather of Cyrus II. So yeah, he took his name from him, and I really think, by the way, I didn't mention this, sorry, but Cyrus I is the one on horseback. That's him. He's not the guy being pierced by the lance or the arrow or whatever that is. No, he's actually the guy on horseback. Like, yeah, that. So let's go back to not this one. Where is it? Yeah, let's just go back to this map. So we are going to start to know the figure of Cyrus. What is that, Paul? Today is Samarkand's official day, so happy Samarkand official day to all of you, Bachar. I did not know this. Do you know if there's something being celebrated, like any kind of cultural thing? Cyrus the First doesn't look very friendly. Apparently so. Apparently so. So the first thing to know of Cyrus is about Cyrus, but according to Cyrus, the best way of getting to know a ruler is to know where he comes from, to explore his origins. But the origins of Cyrus are at the same time complicated and interesting. On the one hand, we do not have contemporary sources, as I said, apart from his own testimonies, and that means we have to trust somehow what all the people registered and then contrast it with archaeological evidence or with parallel sources. Tricky thing. Being a historian is not easy, which are. So if you saw the advertisement of this live stream, you saw that I called Cyrus II the King of Anchan, which is an interesting choice for Cyrus to present himself, because he introduces himself as a member of the clan or the tribe or the lineage of Anchan. So this way he includes actually 3 generations after him. What he does is he traces back the lineage until he reaches Teispes or Tishbish in Persian. Everything's gonna be in Persian here, So this Tishbish was another king of Anchan. According to Cyrus, he was his ancestor. So again, what the hell is Anchan? This name can indicate 2 things. On the one hand, we have a city in ancient Elam, that was an empire at the southwest of Iran. Can you see on the map? Not really. So yeah, you can see Elam, you can see Susa there, and that would have been the Elamite Empire. And on the one hand, as I said, the name Anchan can designate that city. This empire was considered to be active between 3300 and before Common Era, that is, and 559, and just when Cyrus started his military adventure and his expansion adventure. Kisses back to you. So what is the real importance of calling oneself the King of Funchan? This is the key, the first key thing. It marks a very distinctive lineage. That is the lineage Cyrus the Great was considering as his, as such. The title King of Funchan is a weird one. It's really strange, meaning that it does not happen often, it doesn't occur often in the sources that we have in comparison to all the titles or the ways to call a king. The 2 most important mentions of the King of Funchan we find in a seal found in Persepolis and in Cyrus's own cylinder. We are going to talk about the cylinder a little bit in detail because it's very interesting, also we need to handle it carefully as well. We're going to talk about it, do not worry. By the way, I didn't say this, but if at any point you feel like asking a question, you feel lost, or maybe I'm not explaining myself properly, I invite you to stop me and ask. Just do. Also, by the way, I hope this is active. I hope I did it properly. Yeah, just a quick reminder of the rules in this chat. And yeah, as long as you follow them, you can ask whatever you want. Isn't that right, Venom? So, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, this Persepolis seal, I don't have a picture of it, I'm afraid, but its catalog is PFS 93. This belongs to the king of, actually, oh, I do. Oh, I was confusing it with another one. Do you remember that's Cyrus I seal? Not you, your grandfather here. That one. This is the seal where first the King of Anchan title, it happens. And this Cyrus I would have been the son of Teispes and the grandfather of Cyrus. This is the first time that this title occurs because Cyrus I called himself the King of the Anchan. And then the so-called Cyrus Cylinder, it's a founding cylinder that it was found in Babylon, where the king presented himself like a la maniera the kings, the Babylonian kings and Assyrian kings used to do. He used the same titles, and among them he was tracing his lineage back to Teispes, and then he called himself the King of Anchan. So actually, the motive, the reason for Cyrus to take so much time and effort, this is because in Assyria as well as in Babylonia, the lineage of the kings was considered something of the utmost importance. It was key to understand where a king came from, so to justify oneself's kingship. You know, if you are accompanying me through the reading of the Book of Kings, you know how important, how relevant for the protagonists of the Book of Kings is to link themselves with kings of the past, be it Jamshid, Kayumar, etc. This is a similar case. Like, one needs to be backed up, like his curriculum, his CV, in order to access the throne. Actually, is his lineage, his bloodline, like powerful, important. So apparently, dramatic pause. So apparently, if we are to believe Cyrus, Thespis would be his grandfather, right? Because Thespis was king of Anchan, Cyrus I was king of Anchan, and then Cyrus II was king of Anchan. All clear, right? Wrong, because this is accessing some context, like awaken some controversy if you when you study the sources, because actually we don't know the exact relationship between Thespis and Cyrus. So in this cylinder, in this Cyrus cylinder, actually I'm going to show it to you because I have a picture too. Where are you? There we have it. So in this cylinder, in line 21, Cyrus uses the word liblibu, which through history, like historically, has meant something like grandfather, great-grandfather, or great-great-great-great-grandfather. So to be sure, like to step in solid ground, ancestor. So we actually don't know what's the relationship between Cyrus and Thespis. Like, we really don't know the level of family connection that we had. And even though today we keep on researching that, and it's something that is really actually started to be looked upon, it's more or less accepted that Thespis and Cyrus the Great were connected with, like, in the same bloodline through Cyrus the First or the Young. Why is that picture? Lineage is the most important thing on a king by far. Exactly. That is exactly it. So now let's just talk business. Let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. I've mentioned someone. The Medes. Who were these people? Because actually one of the facets of Cyrus, Cyrus is very well known for many things, but one of actually the things that made him the most famous was his military campaigns. That's it. So why is that? Because he was able to gain a powerful and vast empire quite quickly, very quickly, like compared to other military movements prior and after. The problem is, again, that we don't have many sources that attest how this happened. We need to reconstruct history by ourselves, looking at posterior, like later on sources, archaeological evidence, and making a very, very big effort to discern between legend and reality. Because of course, these battles will be adorned by later on sources. Like there's so many Greek and Persian sources that want to emphasize a figure, just give this grandeur to the figure of Cyrus, that sometimes it's difficult to know if they are making up things for the sake of making them up, which is fun to read about. But occasionally you find yourself reading one of these sources and you kind of happen just like to raise your eyebrow a little bit, thinking, oh God, really? Are you sure that you're not like adding a little bit of spice into the text, like a little bit of sazon to the puchero? Apparently so. So yeah, Cyrus, I've said this before and I'm going to keep on saying it through the stream. Cyrus is a person, is a figure surrounded by so much mystery in many aspects of his life. But one thing that's for sure is that this growth, this explosion of power was not arbitrary nor accidental. Probably, Cyrus would have been establishing a very powerful net of contacts, finding alliances, finding all the Persian families and other Iranian families of the scenery to make, again, alliances and contacts with. And here is where we're going to talk about one of the most important women at the time, which is Casandana. Casandana is Cyrus's wife, one of them at least. And, well, I don't want to, but I have to name him. Here we are to listen to Herodotus. Why am I reluctant to mention Herodotus? Because he has this tendency to invent. He is the king of Sazon. Like, he puts Sazon in absolutely everything. But actually, we can find some truth in what he says about Cyrus, for being one of the little sources we have about him. So when he's retelling the conquest of Media, this is one of the most relevant episodes. Herodotus himself explained that his testimony, what he's attesting, is not but just one of the many legends that he heard about Cyrus. So at least at this point, kudos to Herodotus by acknowledging that that what he was telling is just a legend or something he heard from another person. That's it. That's him, 9 June, the one who did not know how to count. And in case you're new here, we say this because Herodotus was the Greek historian that he said that at the Battle of Thermopylae, at the Battle of Thermopylae, there were 5 million Persians. Like, assist them. 5 million. Assist them. So what happened is that let's talk about these people. Who do we have here? Shall I present to you the Medes? And actually, I want to show you the Medes because we have some images coming from Persepolis, actually, so you can recognize them now. These are the Medes, the one with this round headpiece, hat, helmet, headpiece. I don't know the proper name for it, but these are the Medes, and these are the Median. This is the Median Empire, and they were the most powerful force at the time when Cyrus was alive. Exactly, that's Herodotus. 1, 2, 3, caramba. So yeah, the Medes here finding were the most powerful force at the time. And what happened was, if I understood Persian memes, if you study Persian, we could do that. So yeah. Let's just put up the map again. But now when you see these people, actually, if you look at the figure to which is the one closer to me, only the person with a rounded headpiece is Median. He's a Mede. The other one is a Parsi, Persian, what we call traditionally a Persian. So yeah, know your reliefs, know your Persepolis. So yeah. Yeah, we can use this. So this is the territory of the green. In green, you can see the Median Empire. At the time, Cyrus the second came. He came into the scenery, and this was he was one of the vassals of the more powerful Median Empire. So he had to recognize the Median overlordship, but he was not up to the task. So there was the last king of the Median Empire. His name was Astyages, and I don't know if you pronounce that in English, but I don't care. I'm just gonna keep on calling him like that. So Astyages, he was the last king of the Median Empire, and he ruled upon all this territory. So there's this legend, okay, because there's always a legend. I thought Kurosh was half Median. Is that true? Yes, he was half Median. Yeah, at this point, the Anchan kingdom was very little, and he said, hello Serapis, and he sustained, like, the kingdom of Anchan sustained his power through making alliances with other Persian families or Median families. So yeah, absolutely, Cyrus was half Median. So we don't know what happened, but there is this legend that said that Astyages, coming from very Greek sources, that Astyages saw in a dream that his grandson, or his son, would defeat him. So he tried to kill Cyrus, but then he did not. He did not manage to, and afterwards Cyrus came in all strong, all powerful, and defeated him. So we actually don't know. It is not really clear if it was Cyrus who rebelled rebelled against Astyages, or maybe on the contrary, it was actually Astyages who decided to march upon Cyrus. We don't know. And we're never gonna know because it's too blurry, unless something pops up like out of the blue in a tablet or something. Exactly, a self-fulfilled prophecy, so poetic. And yeah, so anyway, it doesn't really matter if we believe one version or the other, because what matters is the consequence of this, which is that the Median Empire was the first power to be incorporated to the recently launched Cyrus's empire. See that I am refraining myself to call this an Achaemenid. Patience, but we shall get to it. So, this is how it looked before Cyrus started his conquest. But actually, sometime later, is it here? Yeah, I actually really like this map because you can see the conquests of Cyrus. So you can see that around 539, he had conquered Lydia, Babylon, and basically like all of Media was his, all of Lydia was his, all of Babylonia was his. And from this last campaign, we actually have sources from this Babylonian campaign. And we know that Cyrus entered the city the 29th of October of 539 before Common Era. All the dates I'm giving here to you are before Common Era, just to prevent myself to give it like that. And apparently, during that time, he also incorporated to his empire more territories in Iran and eastwards, like the provinces of Bactria, Sogdiana, Carmania, or like basically what today will be today's Afghanistan and Uzbekistan. We don't have sources that speak about these eastern campaigns specifically, and at least for now, just waiting for new archaeological findings and discoveries. We only can speculate what happened there. Anyway, like, are you following me? Do you see how stating anything about Cyrus is actually not correct? It's tricky because we don't know much about him. So yeah, by 539 BCE, before Common Era, Cyrus had turned himself into the most powerful king and ruler the ancient world had known and seen up to this date. You know, that's something that is said quite a lot about a lot of historical figures, but in this case it's true. Up to this point in history, there was no other ruler that hosted so much power and such a vast empire. And wait until Darius comes after. Va morirse. So, that's what he did. He just conquered everything in such a very brief period. If you look at the dates, it's less than 20 years. That's a lot. How did he do that? Of course, there was not only, because this is something that has been commented upon in many articles, documentaries, series, and books. This is not something that was achieved by fire and blood exclusively. Remember, Bacha, we are not to fantasize about the past. The past, you know, a war is a war and implies death and destruction and a lot of horrible things. But in this case, we know for a fact that diplomacy played a key role, because if wouldn't it be this other way, Cyrus would have not managed to do this. So that speaks about A, a person of the utmost intelligence, or B, a person surrounding himself by a very intelligent group of people, which is also very exciting. What is that, Woxen? Feels weird how those old realms by then fell to foreign power and were completely absorbed. That's the thing. They were absorbed because administratively, they depended on a very well established tradition or to certain cities, which is, by the way, do you see Ecbatana in the map? So Ecbatana is the capital of the Median Empire, was the capital of the Median Empire, and I really like that sit here on the map because Ecbatana was turned into one of the most important cities at the time of Cyrus. It was it kind of fell upon all the cities like Persepolis or Susa as the centuries went by. But Ecbatana is a key place. Do not forget about Ecbatana, please, I beg you. So yeah, these provinces actually just were conquered, and then they were reconquered and regained by other powers. But yeah, it's very impressive how Cyrus did all of this. I'm here is speaking about a person of like a very sharp brain, very good with strategy, for example. And so what happened with Cyrus? Like, how did he end his military campaigns? Well, about his death, we have a lot of legends, like lots of legends, but many of them have been discarded by the academics because we don't have sources that actually back them up. So, and some of them are I'm gonna tell you some, like a particular one after because of a picture I found on the internet. But yeah, I mean, we are not to believe every single one. So it really depends on which source we are checking. We don't have Persian sources, but we need to support ourselves with what the ancient Greeks wrote, the ancient Greek authors. Herodotus explains that he was assassinated, he was killed. Then Ctesias says that he died because of wounds inflicted on the battlefield. And then Xenophon says that he saw himself dying in a dream, and then 3 days after, he died. So yeah, these are the big three versions. Which one's your favorite? The murder, the battle, like the wounds on the battlefield, or the dream that he saw himself dying and then he died 3 days after? I mean, you know, apparently the hypothesis that comes in stronger, the one that looks more valid, is the one that explains that Cyrus actually passed away due to wounds inflicted in the battlefield. The dream sounds awesome. I know, right? I mean, you said you see yourself dreaming, you see yourself in a dream, dying in 3 days, and you just accept it, you just go with it, and it's like, oh, actually, it's been 3 days. I shall die now. I depart. Farewell. So, but yeah, as I was saying, apparently the hypothesis that comes in stronger and has proven to be more valid is that Cyrus passed away due to the wounds inflicted on the battlefield in what would be his last campaign in Asia, next to the Oxus River, which is the Amu Darya right now, and he died in 529 BCE. What is that? I thought it was a lady from the east that killed him. That's the legend. All right, now in June, let's go there. Maybe the dream is less implausible than it sounds. Maybe conquerors dream about dying all the time. You know what? I can see that entirely as a possibility. Because all right. Naim June has mentioned the death of Cyrus, and actually I want to show you a painting which is not contemporary whatsoever. In fact, is from the 17th century. This is a painting by Rubens, the European artist. This is Queen Tamiris plunging the head of Cyrus the Great. Because if we talk about the death of Cyrus, we need to mention Tamiris and the legend that it was she who cut the Persian king's head. This is what Herodotus tells us, admitting all right, I don't like Herodotus, but when he speaks about Cyrus, he acknowledges, like he did before, when he speaks about his origins and his quick, thriving military campaign, he acknowledges that these are just suppositions and legends and just like folk talk. So Herodotus admits that this legend is only one of many possibilities. From his work, all the classical authors kept on repeating and repeating and repeating it over, and actually they made it, they turned it into the official version of it. And well, as we've seen, it was not the case at all. So who is Tamiris? So Tamiris was the queen of the Masarets, which is a tribe that Cyrus was trying to conquer over. And first he tried to propose, he tried to offer Tamiris the possibility for her to marry him to achieve a victory without war, which was made quite a lot. Like he did that with the Median Empire as well. So it was done a lot. And Herodotus tells that the Persians, well, she refused. She didn't want to marry Cyrus, and Cyrus changed his strategy literally into a more offensive disposition. Herodotus tells us that the Persians, even though they were winning, they just pretended they were being defeated, and they left in his camp a significant amount of wine. The Massagetes, believing, they just fell onto the trick, and they believing that they had conquered, just defeated the Persians, they just got drunk to celebrate. They got absolutely smashed, and when they were smashed on the floor, the Persians came in. They literally jumped on them, and it was a disaster, and they captured many of them. Unfortunately, one of the Massagetes the Persians caught was the son of Tamiris. I hope I'm going to pronounce his name properly. This is the Greek name of the boy. I didn't find his original name. His name was Espargapises. And as it was a deep humiliation for him, Espargapises committed suicide when he was being held hostage by the Persians. As you can imagine, Tamiris, the mom, didn't take this very well. Absolutely not. So, Tamiris decided to avenge his son's death, and then she just charged up front against the army of Cyrus, defeating them entirely. And just to top it up, she was like cherry on top of the story, Herodotus tells us that the queen cut the head of the king and made his body crucified. After she turned the head of Cyrus into a glass to drink wine. As a legend, it has it has its spice. It has a kick to it. But remember that the next time we hear this, we read this, it's just a very colorful story. It's not what actually happened. Was that Uloko? Didn't Cyrus's dynasty get overwritten by Darius? Could this mean that contemporaries' passion because of Cyrus was somehow tampered with? I don't think you were here at the beginning of the stream, but I'm going to show you anyway, because I think it's very important and interesting. Of course, many things that we know about Cyrus came from Darius, but it was not that Darius overwrote Cyrus's dynasty. He constructed a very careful tale of what happened. Oh, where is it? There we have it. So yeah, this relief is traditionally identified as Cyrus because above it we find an inscription that says, "I am Cyrus the king, an Achaemenid." But he never said that about himself. Cyrus II never called himself an Achaemenid. Darius did. Why is that? Because at least the inscription belongs to Darius's time, not to Cyrus's. So yeah, again, if you want a live stream about Darius, just post a glass of tea in the chat. And since we are covering this topic, let's just talk about something very, very interesting. Is Cyrus an Achaemenid? Can we call Cyrus an Achaemenid? The tricky part. I actually want to show you. Where is it? Where is it? I wanted to show you the banner of the... Oh yeah, here we have it. So this is traditionally the banner of not only the Achaemenid Empire, but Cyrus's army himself. So, as I was saying, can we call Cyrus an Achaemenid? Can we, because I mentioned, oh sorry, I'm going to just tone down this a little bit. I mentioned before that Cyrus is traditionally addressed as the father and the founder of the Achaemenid Empire and the Achaemenid dynasty. But to what extent is that true? Is that correct? Was Cyrus an Achaemenid himself? Or was he not? So, this is a very controversial point in history because, in general lines, the academics, we ask ourselves this question. In Cyrus' own lineage, the one he describes about himself, there is no trace of Achaemenes anywhere as an ancestor. In his own telling of the story, in the sources that we keep from him and his time, there is no mention of Achaemenes whatsoever. Not a single one. Oh, by the way, the name of Achaemenes in Persian is Achamonesh, and I love it. What is that? How accurate is this banner, and how much of it is a speculative reconstruction by modern scholars? Well, actually, this is a plaque that was found in Persepolis. Let me show you. There we have it. This plaque was found in Persepolis, hanging in one of the walls, and apparently it's imitating a standard. So yeah, it's entirely possible that this banner belonged to the Achaemenid army. Like it's actually quite possible. It's a mixture of many things. We have the wings of oh, what's the name of this deity? Is an Egyptian deity. I don't know, but this deity is absorbed by Ashur, you know, the Assyrian Empire's main deity. So it's I think, oh damn it, I don't know the name of the Egyptian deity. Apologies to all the Egyptologists out there. I am from Iranian studies. Like Horus, I don't know, baby. I know Horus is a falcon, so there's a possibility that this banner was created. Oh, sorry, you cannot see it, but the moon is just gorgeous from out here. Woo! Beautiful. Sorry. And yeah, the moon is very pretty. It's looking very pretty. So this is a mixture of many different symbols, and these kind of syncretism led to a representation of all the territories conquered by Cyrus. Egypt on the one, Apis isn't because Team Cow, no, there's no cows in here, not yet, there will be, but not yet. So Egypt, Babylonia, Assyria, then Media, and all that jazz. So yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so yeah, bear with, like stay with me, because this is where it gets interesting and juicy. So 9 June is teasing me. We are going to talk about that, about Cyrus and human rights, which is not a correct statement, but it has a lot more to it. Let me just finish with this, and then we can go talk about that. So, as I was saying, in the sources that Cyrus created, either himself or in his time, there is no mention to Achaemenes whatsoever. Not a single one. Because according to Darius I, they were connected, their lineages were connected through this common ancestor, which was Achamonesh. Achaemenid. I just really like the Persian name. Don't you think it sounds super cool? Achamonesh. Oh, look, I will have to look that upon. I don't know specifically about this, but I can look it up for you and yeah, maybe tell you later. Zero evidence, but zero doubts. That's good. So if there is no mention to Achamonesh in Cyrus's lineage, can we consider Cyrus not only as an Achaemenid, but as the founder of the Achaemenid dynasty? Can we actually? Because the Achaemenid dynasty and the Achaemenid Empire, all of it, they take their name and their importance from this common ancestor that was Achaemenid. If Cyrus was not connected to Achaemenid, can he be an Achaemenid? So let's just talk about these Achaemenid. The descendants of Achaemenid were a family of great importance among the society of the Parsas, the society living in the south of Iran, north to the Zagros Mountains, at the same time of the Elamites. So the Achaemenid family, the descendants of Achaemenid, and the Elamites were contemporaries. Among these descendants from Achaemenid, there was Casandana, a woman of nobility. Does it sound familiar to you? Yes, because she is the one that Cyrus actually married. By marrying Casandana, he made sure that he would get the support from the Parsas, the noble Parsas family, in his military expansion. This union is attested, is evidenced by Greek sources like Herodotus and by other sources found not only in Iran but throughout the Near East. So because of this marriage with Casandana, Cyrus got linked to the family of the descendants of Achaemenid. This is the reason he is considered to be an Achaemenid and the founder of the dynasty. After some decades, Darius would get these dynastic line to pick it up and legitimize himself through the marriage of Casandana and Cyrus, and that way he would link his own ancestors to Cyrus's. So technically speaking, Cyrus was not an Achaemenid by blood. Cyrus was an Achaemenid by lineage, by marriage, by political and marital union. Literally, it's me. So, did you know this? Because I find it fascinating. And if you ask me, I do consider Cyrus an Achaemenid, but I'm very much aware that he's not an Achaemenid by blood. He's an Achaemenid through his marriage, which actually brings something to reflect upon, at least for me, which is that the name of one of the biggest Iranian empires in history came through a woman, which is Casandana. Would Casandana not have married Cyrus? There would not be a possible way to connect Cyrus, Darius, and Achaemenid. It was Casandana. She was the key element for this. And I think that's fantastic, if you ask me. Absolutely fantastic. So this is the genesis of the Achaemenid Empire. This is what the first quote-unquote Achaemenid ruler did. But I said that I wanted to talk about his cultural legacy as well. And I want to show you, I talked about Ecbatana, but we're going to focus on another city. Do you know where this is? Do you know where is this city? Have you been there? Did Ardashir refer to himself as a Sasanian? Again, I will have to check because I'm really I feel humbled when you, Bachar, ask me all these things, believing that I know a lot of it, but I don't have the knowledge at the top of my head all the time. So maybe if we do a live stream about the origins of the Sasanian Empire, maybe we can talk about that too and find out together. I suspect if not Achaemenid, Darius would have found some other name or way to connect himself to Cyrus. I mean, of course, he was the master of puppets. Maybe the dynastic prestige of Cyrus's name is too valuable to lose. I mean, certainly, absolutely. That's a very good point to make. Although, oh, very good, Faisal. It's Pasargada. I was gonna point there, but you know, dyslexia. Ta-da! Faisal and Naim, you both are correct. This is the tomb of Cyrus's. This is the tomb of Cyrus in Pasargada, which is and was one of the most important Achaemenid capitals in history, and I want to talk about it. I want to talk about the royal capital. What is that, Uloko? I wondered whether the early Sasanians called themselves that because Sasan, the man, somehow lent prestige to their line. Again, I would have to look upon it, and I don't know on the top of my head. I am afraid I cannot answer. But again, if you want a live stream about the Sasanian Empire, support me on Patreon. Suggest that to me. We just can offer that to vote, and maybe we can explore the origins of the Sasanian Empire together. I said that I wanted to talk about Pasargada. Why? Because when we talk about the Achaemenids, it's always Persepolis. I get it. I understand it. I've been there, and I've been hit and struck by its beauty, by its magnificence. I have. But it's not the only city. And because of the poor preservation state, Pasargada tends to be overlooked. And the only thing in Pasargada that gets acknowledged is the Tomb of Cyrus. But this was the first capital of the King of Funchan's empire, and I think it's really worth taking a look upon this. So, has Cyrus's tomb never been robbed? Cyrus's tomb has been robbed multiple times. Not once, not twice, but possibly many, many times in history, I'm afraid. So yeah, as I was saying, let's just go to Cyrus's map and show you where Pasargada is. It's in the south, it's in the actual province of Shiraz, and if you go there, please go to Pasargada, please pay your respects. What did the second robber take? I have no idea. I was not there, and I have not a way of knowing. What's the point of robbing a tomb again? Well, maybe it was restocked with things to keep it shiny, to keep it looking sharp, if you want. I'm going to talk about this in a moment too. Where is the empire? Here we have it. So, why does Cyrus have a tomb? Wasn't he Zoroastrian? No. Possibly he was a Mazdian, but we don't know. So, can you find Ekbatana in there? It's just underneath the A. Sorry, not Ekbatana. What am I saying? I'm acknowledging Ekbatana too much. Can you see Persia? Up, if you follow the R, upwards, you can find Pasargada. So that's the capital. That's the first capital of the Achaemenid king. And yeah, he established his capital there. Like Cyrus's capital was in Pasargada. And it is very close actually to Persepolis and Naxxarostam. If you go there on a tour, it's very possible that you get offered to visit the 3 historical sites. Please do not, if you travel to Iran and you get someone to drive you around, please do ask them to go to Pasargada, because sometimes they don't offer it, because according to many there's not much to see, but believe me, it's a site very worth visiting. I've been there and it's still one of my favorite places on earth. What is that, Faisal? Is there any actual sources that claim that Cyrus's tomb? Apparently there is some, the scattered, but we have some of them. There's an inscription that was added later, and we have not found anything else, but the tomb at the time is described as such, like in this manner. So, where's Pasargada? I had so many pictures of Pasargada. So here we have it. This is a reconstruction of how Pasargada would look like by the Encyclopedia Iranica. Let me just move this one a little bit so you can see it better. There you go. Yeah, that's better. So there's kind of a lot of hypotheses about its name, about the reconstruction of the name Pasargada, but one of the many hypotheses is that it would mean the throne of Fars or Parsa. You've been to Persepolis, but no. You missed Cyrus's tomb? No, Faisal, you too? No, you need to go back. You need to go back and request a refund, and they have to take you to Pasargada. This actually was the first like historical site that I saw when I was living in Iran, and wow, the feeling. Also, if you want, I can tell you a little bit about it later. So, despite Pasargada being the first imperial capital, we know very little about it because very little remains. Like, time has been inclement to Pasargada. It's not nice, and we don't have many information about the city. What we have found is the royal courtyards and the royal rooms, the back garden, the central garden, and a series of buildings with columns that were organized, displayed around this garden. And of course, the most famous construction is the Tomb of Cyrus. I have a reconstruction, another part. Like, this is how a palace in Pasargada, the main palace, would look like. And I have another. Don't I? Do I have the garden somewhere? No, have I not added this to this? Oh, apparently I don't. What is that? At least the tomb isn't going anywhere, so you can always revisit. Exactly. But I hope the tomb is not going anywhere. You live in Iran, but we never had a chance to go there again. Don't worry, I'm pretty sure it will pop up at some point. How earthquake prone are these areas? Low. Not much. No, it's actually towards the east where Bam is. And by the way, if you want to watch that live stream, we talked about the fortress of Bam also here. So this is how a palace in Pasargada would have looked like. I can't speak English anymore. And actually, we the scholars and the experts are making a big effort to reconstruct what we believe Pasargada would have been, because well, apart from the buildings that I'm showing you here, the reconstructions, we have identified a citadel to the south, another garden, a quadrangular tower, just like a structure, I guess, just like a quadrangular structure. Sorry, a quadrangular. A quadrangular structure that looks like a tower, some buildings with more columns, and a monumental entrance that apparently you have to access to get into the actual park. None of these buildings apparently are adequate to live in. They're not inhabitable. They were not intended to be inhabited. So that discards the hypothesis of them being, for example, palaces. So possibly there would be administrative buildings, or maybe for the army, for occasionally. And also we have found inscriptions under the name of Cyrus, but we're not sure that all of them belong to Cyrus's time. As I was saying before, the most famous of it is the one that says, "I am Cyrus, the king, Achaemenid." And the reality is, as I told you before, that Darius I was the one that commissioned this inscription many years after the death of Cyrus as part of his own political legitimation campaign. Concerning these pictures, I really like that Uluku has like a million questions. I miss them. What is the basis for the depiction? Well, we have many bases for them. We have descriptions of travelers through time, like especially 17th, 18th, and 19th century travelers that went to the sites where still were some buildings remaining. Also, we have parallel buildings. We have preserved some in Persepolis, for example, and we can date the buildings to know that they belong to the same time. Also, archaeologists have their ways. Archaeologists have their ways of knowing how these buildings were constructed and structured. And normally you can learn a lot. I don't know if you study art history, Uloko, or archaeology, but actually you know a lot. You get to know a lot about the roof of a building by looking at the foundings of it and the structure of it. So it's kind of like, all right, thank you, Naeem. So it's quite easy to find out how the roof was. Of course, there's always a margin for error. There's entirely a possibility for these being mistaken, and maybe there was something at the top of these buildings on the rooftop. But we have not found such a thing in all the buildings of the time that we preserve. So yeah, that's basically what we do when we reconstruct these buildings. We look at all the archaeological evidence, at sources we have through time, at descriptions of it, because believe it or not, sometimes sources do describe these buildings. Travelers' journals and travel notes are just cherry on top of it. Oh, thank you, Nicola. I know I keep on talking about Cyrus and I just would not stop. Really sorry. So I want to talk about the gardens in Pasargada because it's one of the biggest and most important structures in the city. And we have preserved many testimonies that says that apparently this was such a delight, a treat to the eyes. The structure of the garden can still be seen in the marks on the floor that describe two gardens, like two rectangular gardens, that they were irrigated by various canals, like channels of water. This was made already by the Assyrians. This was not this was not something the Persians invented. And in this garden, again, a la maniera of the Assyrians, this was like many different species of trees were planted there, like trees and bushes and beasts from all the corners of the empire. This is a way of reproducing in a miniature all the territories that the king rules upon. And of great importance, by the way, is the cypress tree, the Cupressus sempervirens, which was symbolic. It was a sacred tree for the Iranians before Cyrus and after too, and they were considered to be sacred trees. And the tomb of Cyrus, let me show it again. Again, so many pictures. So many pictures, and there's so many I have not shown to you because I think I'm abusing the time a little bit. So the tomb of Cyrus has been identified with a structure that's elevated through stairs, stone stairs, and it is placed in the center of a space that would have been a royal park. And one of the most detailed descriptions of the tomb, at least how it would have been back in the day, it was in the anabasis of Arrianus, who at the same time he based his writings in Aristobulus, who was a writer that accompanied no other but Iskandar. That's it, Alexander the Great himself, because he visited Pasargada. And over the stairs, there was a square space that gave access to a very tiny room where the sarcophagus of Cyrus would have been, alongside a lot of goods and luxury objects from all the provinces of his empire. Bye, Nainjun. Thank you for keeping the live stream. Pay attention in class, Nainjun. And so what's interesting about Arrianus and Aristobulus is that they also point out at the existence of a very tiny construction close to the tomb, very little, for the Magi or the Basdian priest that, according to the Greek sources, were custodying the tomb. They also said there was an inscription, but truth to be told, no inscription has been found in this building, because Achaemenid funerary buildings, they don't have epitaphs, so that means we cannot trust entirely the Greek sources. So how do we identify this as the tomb of Cyrus? Again, by descriptions, with this similitude between Greek sources. They all describe something very similar to this, but this is not the only way we have of knowing if, in fact, this was the tomb of Cyrus. There's the archaeological and the art historian effort to find another similar buildings in the period, not only in Iran, but in other provinces. And remember, which are artistic testimonies are sources as well. So to finish, because I've been talking for so long, I apologize, but I knew this was going to be forever because you see how much I like Cyrus. Let's talk about the Cyrus Cylinder, because I think is of a very is actually very important to be acknowledged. Yeah, to be acknowledged. So this is one of the most important pieces we preserve of the time of Cyrus being alive, and it is called the Cyrus Cylinder. We have mentioned this before because this is a source that contains the king's genealogy to link himself with Chispes or Thespes. But there are many other things interesting in this cylinder. So the first thing to know about this cylinder is what was his actual function. Cyrus was not the first, like absolutely not the first, and not the last king of Babylon to commission a cylinder. Did they have any idea what was written in that crack area? They have reconstructed the text entirely. If you go to livius.org, you can find the cylinder and the inscription reconstructed also in the British, because this is in the British Museum. So if you go to the British Museum website and look at the Cyrus Cylinder, there's many articles linked in there that solely spoke about the cylinder and the effort in reproducing the damaged area. So I'm saying that, the function of this. This is a victory cylinder, because that's what's contained in there. It's a chronicle about the victory over the last king of Babylon, who was Nabonidus, and Cyrus's triumphant entrance in the city. This is made of clay and is written in Akkadian. Although part of the screenshot is lost, there's 35 lines remaining that can be clearly read. And apart from, just pointing out and reporting supposedly crimes Nabonidus committed, Cyrus explained how the god Marduk himself, the patron of the city of Babylon, was looking for an adequate king until he found Cyrus. So it was told that Nabonidus had suppressed the cult to Marduk, and truth to be told, if we only look at Cyrus' cylinder, Nabonidus is not left in a very good place. Like it's not a gentle place. Was Akkadian the standard Persian script in Cyrus's time? No, it was the standard written script in Mesopotamia, which is where this cylinder belonged to. Remember, this was made in Babylonia after the Babylonian conquest. Cyrus made sure that people could read this script. What the Persian Empire used was mostly Old Persian, although it was written using cuneiform as well, which is this type of script that we find in the cylinder. So Cyrus made sure that he presented himself as a restorer of the ancient order, which is a cult to Marduk. And if you read the cylinder, he was practically chosen by Marduk, like appointed by Marduk himself. He also explains how all the kings were paying homage to him and tributes, and he said that he had restored all the cities with the original cults. And finally, and this is the key point, this is a code of jurisprudence. This includes not laws, but indications on how certain legal matters should be taken under account. And this is the reason the cylinder is so interesting, and how just speaking lightly of it is tricky, and it does not help us much to understand how this was important at the time. The key element in this cylinder, and the reason for it to be called the first human rights declaration, which is not, is that Cyrus allowed the displaced people. You know how many people in ancient times, in order to prevent a rebellion, what would you do is that you would put into exile different communities, so they would not come together and rebel against you. So these exiled communities were allowed to go back to their countries and lands of origin. This is a part that we find in the Bible itself. For example, where Cyrus is presented in such a positive, it's incredibly positively presented, because he's acknowledged as the person who freed the Jews captive in Babylonia. But it was not only the Jews. The Jews actually are not mentioned here. Any exiled people could go back to the lands of origin, any of them. And this actually was it is located in a propagandistic movement, very carefully studied. And as I was saying before, he did not do this. He was not the only one who did this, but he did this in a very clever way. Also, he made sure that he was imitating all the kings and their manners. Cyrus was especially interested in his legitimization as the new sovereign of Babylonia, and he had to first turn the previous king into a monster and then portray himself as, you know, the hypostasis of freedom and the hypostasis of the proper governor. So people would accept him as the new ruler more rapidly. And at first, the Cyrus Cylinder was taken as a literal description of how events unfolded and how history came to be. On the other hand, the Cylinder of Cyrus, is included among a very long tradition of jurisprudence codes, started very late, like very early in time, by Babylonian kings, Assyrian kings, and is not only a chronicle of a victory, of a military victory, it's also a code that helps legislate certain matters. It has been called the first Declaration of Human Rights because it acknowledges groups of people and allows them to, again, go back to the land of origins and acknowledges certain needs from certain communities. However, it is not correct to state that Cyrus invented human rights because the human rights were not invented until post 1945. Claiming actually that Cyrus invented human rights is called presentism, and we should avoid it at all costs because we should understand historical subjects and historical events within their context. It's very important. If you say that Cyrus invented human rights, you are actually placing in his mind a concept that was not at all. Oh, thank you for the follow. Sorry, I didn't see you there. So if you actually say that, you are placing in the wrong time the wrong concept. There was not a consideration of human rights at the time. What Cyrus did was very important and it was key for the development of the historical events. However, he's not inventing human rights. He's doing something different to that. So yeah, please do not stop referring to the Cyrus Cylinder as the Declaration of Human Rights because it's not as such. It's very important. This is not me brushing off importance in this cylinder, but bear in mind the Declaration of Human Rights is the Declaration of Human Rights post Second World War and post 1945. I think it's 1950 something, I believe. Have any other copies in different languages have been found? No, unfortunately not. The modern notion of human rights implicitly asserts some kind of international community and universal standards applying to the entire human community. I very much doubt people in Cyrus's time had such concepts in mind. Exactly. That's one of the key points. Very well phrased, Loco. So yes, again, not to brush off any importance of these archaeological artifacts. However, we need to put things in perspective. And by putting things in perspective, I mean something like this. In 1971, however, it was when it was started to be considered as the first Declaration of Human Rights. And as we explained, that's not correct. This happened where Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the Shah of Iran, turned Cyrus in one of the pillars of his monarchical ideology in a new movement of legitimization and connection with the pre-Islamic past of Iran. Considering the cylinder as a Declaration of Human Rights is a mistake, of course, Cyrus had a very powerful, very tolerant policy towards communities, and he was following a plan. He wanted to do so because he acknowledged it was very good for his recently found empire. And the problem is that this publicity, this advertisement of the piece as the Declaration of Human Rights is super extended and is not correct at all. So yeah, I think just to sum up, should we see him again? I actually wanted to show you something. My favorite Cyrus up to this date, Ta-da! Here we have him. This is the Cyrus that was created for Civilization 6, Sid Meier's computer game. So I think I'm gonna wrap this up. I think Cyrus the Great, Cyrus II, Kurosh, and his legacy are fundamental pillars in the history of Iran, and to this day they echo in the Iranian identity discourses, in memory discourses, and in cultural construction, and through the little that we know about his life and the little we have preserved. I think the doors are open towards one of the biggest dynasties of antiquity, and also they open the possibility to understand the past from a different perspective, from the perspective of the very first king of kings, Cyrus, the king of Anchan. I really hope you have enjoyed this live stream with me, and I have a surprise for you, a little surprise. What is that, Iloko? Just because some tablet gives some rights to some humans doesn't make it about human rights. At least not as, because the difference lies, like, it's just based on the concept of it. As you very brilliantly explained, the Declaration of Human Rights understands that humanity is one that should be treated equally. In the case of Cyrus's time, it was not exactly the case. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed my rant and my blubbery. I said I have a surprise. I'm gonna show it to you. Just give me 1 second. Because, where is it? I can't find it. So, there you are. Okay, I did. There you have it. I wanted to show you this, which is Cyrus. It's Cyrus's voice in the game Civilization 6, and we're going to listen to him. My Persian does not allow me to understand what he says because he's speaking in a very ancient manner, in very classic. If you have, I think Faisal, I don't know if Faisal is still here, or Naeem, they speak Persian better than I do. And Ulok, do you speak Persian? So I wanted you to hear him. I'm gonna play it and let me know if you can hear it properly.
از گرانی دشمنان آماه رنجور ما بوید عود از آفرین دوستان اماه حلق ما بوید ابستام او خش دارد ما اباریگان
I have no idea what he's saying whatsoever.
او پیشی کوروش وزرگ پارسی استاده ای.
I mean, he says you stand before the great Cyrus of Persia, کوروش بزرگ.
دانم که زود دوست شویم پد کمی استهنون رای.
Oh, I really like him. I really like his manners.
نیک دانم که جهیش ها هست که وی دردن نتوان.
You got Kurosh out of it. Good job!
اگر فریب شاید خواهم که پدستی من عباس باید.
Oh, I love him. Oh, for some reason there's no audio in here. Oh my god, he's angry. He's angry now.
افسان ها را نشنوده استه ایادگاری سپاهی اماوندی من رو ادوین نون پد مردمانی تون مایم که چیون ازیری فرمانی آدوگ پادیخ شای توان بوانگ داشتن.
I have no idea what he's saying. I go.
نگی کاریزار سخت کم دید استاد هم.
Okay. So that was it. Thank you for staying. Let's just bring a little bit more light into the... Thank you for staying until the end. Yes, you are correct, Uloko. What a dignified way of saying that he's going to kick your ass, basically, because that's what he's going to do. I don't know if you play Civilization. Oh my god, I am very, very bright and white. But thank you for coming to my tech talk and to the live stream about Cyrus. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, because as I was saying, Cyrus is a very important figure, not only for the history of Iran, but also for myself in my personal life. And I do think that I have a big crush. Like, he's still my historical crush. I really like Cyrus still. And even though we don't know much about him, as I was saying, I think he could be the key to start understanding the past of Iran and of the ancient world in a different manner. Thank you so much for coming, and I am very excited for this live stream to come up. A role model for us all. Exactly. It was great, very interesting, pleasure as always. You make Mondays better. You love the stream. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you so much. I'm really happy you enjoyed it. I know it's been a little bit longer than usual, but I think Cyrus is worth the length. Thank you so much for coming along. Thank you so much for tagging along with me, and just thank you for your support, thank you for your comments, thank you for your questions. Oh loco, we were missing you. Now go home and carve your own cylinder. I am home already. Maybe you could do it. But thank you so much. If you want to be kept posted through the week, you know the social. And if you want to come to the next live stream in English, it will be on Monday. And I think next week we're gonna read the Book of Kings. I'm not sure, but thank you so much to everyone for the follows and for the subscriptions. Thank you to my patrons, always in my heart, my dear patrons. And you know, as I always tell you, remember to create, remember to explore, and remember to have tons of fun. Until the next time we see each other, I shall bid you Khodafis. Can you update the Twitch schedule? It's the same as always. Oh, thank you, Naim June, for using the command by. You can use command by to say Khodafis. Uloko is the same as always. Mondays at 7 p.m. Central European time, or 6 p.m. British summer time. Well, British time is the live stream in English, and then we have on Thursdays in Spanish. You're more than welcome to come to the Spanish stream as well. And if you type command by, you can say Khodafis in Persian. So until the next time I see you, I shall bid you Khodafis.